David Wilson becoming the world's most capped flanker today, playing his 66th international and also playing his 13th test against South Africa, passing the late Greg Davis.
Bring on the Bledisloe Cup. We want you badly.
Rugby welcomes you to Tri-Nations action. It's Australia and the South African Springboks from Norwich Park, Newlands in Cape Town. And it's a balmy afternoon over there, 16 degrees. The surface has been re-sown and hopefully it will stand up. But certainly we had problems during the Super 12 series. Great expectation for this South African team who've been much maligned. They haven't won a match so far in the Tri-Nations. New Zealand unbeaten. Australia has to win this game to keep their Tri-Nations hopes alive and set it all up on August 28 at Stadium Australia. Welcome to this Tri-Nations match. One Australia has to win. And joining me in commentary, Simon Poidevin and also Chris Handy. Well, Simon, what about the Australian team? They are favourites tonight. Do you think it's going to be close?
I think they'll win quite comfortably, but they have to be unpredictable out there. They can't play moves where they go straight into this very, very tough South African defence. Out wide, there are real opportunities, especially with the likes of Percy Montgomery, Rousseau.
Chris, there's been a lot of change, hasn't there, to the Australian tight five, to the forward pack. Do you have any concerns there?
Yeah, I suppose I have. There's not much test match rugby between four of the tight five, all the front row and Tom Bowman. There's a lot to do. They're keen to do it, and I think they'll be punished if they don't do it well. So there's the challenge for them.
OK, let's have a look at the two lineups then. Firstly, the Australian team. And it's a new front row, the all-Waratah combination, Richard Harry, Phil Kearns and Andrew Blades. Long Tom Bowman joins David Giffen in the second row, so 4 changes to the tight five. In the back row, Torai Kefu comes back in. He came off the bench against the All Blacks 3 weeks ago in Auckland. And the halves combination, a lot of experience here. Georgie Gregan, the vice-captain, and Tim Horan, his 73rd international. The centre pairing, big, tough, aggressive. Nathan Gray, Daniel Herbert had a great game against New Zealand. And the back three, Joe Roth, Ben Tune and Matthew Burke. So there's the Australian back line and the forward pack. They say they're the best backs in the world. They'll have to prove it tonight against this South African team, and a lot of changes there in the tight five. South Africa, Osderunt, Naka Drotsky, Kobus Vasaki. That's the same settled front row. And 2 real greyhounds now in the second row. A lot of mobility here, Selborne Boom and Albert Vandenberg. And the back row, well, it's the 7th different back row combination in 7 test matches. Andre Vos comes in on blindside flank to join Penta and Erasmus. Van der Westhuizen is joined by the experienced Yanni de Beer, who hasn't played a test since '97 at Murrayfield. The centre combination, Dr. Brendan Fenter comes in the number 12 jumper to join Robbie Fleck. And the back three, well, Peter Rousseau hasn't been in form. Dion Kaiser had a very good game against New Zealand. And Percy Montgomery seems to be public enemy number 1 at the moment over in South Africa. So let's now look at this combination. The backs, some new faces there, and a pretty settled forward pack. So that's the scene here. Newlands, almost full to capacity, 50,000 fans. We're building up to this Tri-Nations clash. The South African Springboks and Australia. We'll be back very shortly. And a splendid scene at Newlands. 50,000 fans in for this clash between Australia and South Africa. The Wallabies played their first ever test in South Africa at this ground back in 1933. Dr. Alec Ross's side. They've had victories in 53 and also in 63, John Thornett's team. And in 1992, that record win by 26-3, the unification test match. But it's pleasant weather. A lot of atmosphere. We can see some Australian flags in the crowd, and with me in commentary, Simon Poidevin and Chris Handy. Well, Simon, how do you see the outcome tonight?
Well, I was there in 92, a fabulous win. 95 was tragic, and the Springboks came out that day on fire as the Australians now take the field.
So David Wilson leading out this Australian side. Richard Harry getting his first run on test in over a year. And very focused men at the back. Torai Kefu, second man out. David Giffen up near the front as well. And it's a big moment for the new tight forwards. Andrew Blades is in there, so too is Richard Harry and Phil Kearns. And David Wilson. Just van der Westhuizen and Os de Runt leading out the Springbok team. Van der Westhuizen made a huge impact for South Africa against New Zealand in his comeback game last weekend. The Springbok is alive and kicking at Norwich Park, Newlands. Tiaan Strauss will be on the bench, the former Western Province and South African skipper, so he'll get a big crowd reaction for the Australian team when he comes on. And the South Africans desperate to get back into the winner's circle. They've lost 4 on the trot, and Van der Westhuizen may just be the man to turn things round for them. There's the South African team, 4 changes from last week's losing outfit, the same tight 5, 7th different back row combination in 7 test matches, and the backs, Yanni de Beer and Brendan Venter come in, 285 run-on caps for the South African team. De Beer's last test, 1997. Venter's last test was against Australia at Loftus Versfeld in 1996. And here's the Australian lineup now. 5 changes to the forward pack from the Eden Park test. A new front row. 113 caps between that trio. Bowman returning at lock. Kepu gets a start at number 8. Same back line that faced the All Blacks. Dan Herbert was in outstanding form at Eden Park. 525 run-on caps, Chris Handy. A lot of experience there, nearly twice as much, really, as the Springboks.
A lot of opportunities for Australia in the backs of the South Africans tonight. They've got to exploit them. They'll be concentrating at Yanni de Beer and centre.
So Colin Hawke is our referee, and he had the match between Australia and New Zealand, or South Africa, at Subiaco last year, and he played over 150 games for Western Province. Tiaan Strauss, so he knows every blade of grass there, Simon Poitevin, as we prepare for the anthems.
Yep, a very emotional day here for Tiaan Strauss, and I'm sure he'll get at least 30 minutes field time in this game.
Great ground, this one. That close rectangle, very intimate. Wonderful atmosphere.
Well, the camera spent a lot of time, naturally, on Tiaan Strauss. selection there of the anthems for South Africa. And Polsa and Du Toit, Swanepoel, Ruben Kruger has gone back to the bench for South Africa. And there's the Australian bench, and Rod Kafer, number 17, poised to make his test debut tonight if he gets a run in the second half. Noriega going back from the starting team for the first time this season. So the stage is set, and this is going to be a real crunch game, even maybe a watershed game for these two sides. South Africa has to win, so does Australia. And I think the Springboks really want to prove a point tonight, Simon Poitevin. This man, Brendan Fenter, has been outstanding with London Irish. He was probably the outstanding number 12 in British rugby in the past season. Yanni de Beer has played for London Scottish, so a lot of experience coming back into those crucial areas at 10 and 12.
Well, London Irish and London Scottish, not international rugby. Our back line, it's a very, very powerful back line. And I believe they get the ball wide tonight, break down that first line defence and go wide. And the Springboks will find all sorts of problems out there.
The start's so important for the Wallabies. They've been quiet in past test matches. They must go at it like mad dogs tonight. There's no end to this. 80 minutes, they've got to play it right out, and it starts with this whistle. We've won the anthem, I reckon, Simon, right at the start. They look committed, they punched it out, and that's a great sign.
And this is the most important start for the Australians this season. They've been slow starters. The Springboks started outstandingly well against the All Blacks last week. Aussies must crack from the first whistle. Fetchura, the employer of Selborne Boom, who's the financial advisor for the Springboks. He's always on his laptop, advising about share purchases. And Matthew Burke to commence proceedings. Colin Hawke in charge from New Zealand. So an early touch there for Andre Fenter, who was absolutely outstanding last week. Yanni de Beer gets his touch just outside the quarter. Good work there by Joe Roth coming through. But de Beer and also Fenter will add a lot of composure to this South African back line. Barnabas Hazen a little rusty last week, coming back from that very lengthy time off the knee reconstruction. Should be sharp for this week, so he'll be right on top of Tim Horan.
Well, the Springboks were able to pinch New Zealand's ball early on, but Australia does it well. Here's a strong bust by Nathan Gray. Big charge, cutting straight back in, close to the ruck. Horan goes wide, loose pass. Ben Tune got it. That was Percy Montgomery out wide in defence. Loose pass from Gregan, picked up by Giffen. That's the goal line ahead. Fenter the tackler. Australia needs the ball here. Here's an overlap. It was a loose pass and some offside play. No, the referees ruled it for the knock-on by Australia. A try goes begging.
Well, the lead-up was sensational. The pass that went to ground was a shocker. But what about the pick-up by David Giffen? Tim Horan not at all happy with this one.
This is early part. Ben Tune hitting the ball up. And a couple of times previously we've seen him lose it. And he did lose it forward that time, pulled out of his arms. And this, the short side. They had them shot to pieces. The pass here goes to hand. Try Australia. And they bumbled it.
So that was number 14, Ben Tune.
I want you set.
And that was a dead set 5-pointer for the Wallabies.
Terrific early bust by Nathan Gray.
No.
I think they can find some weaknesses there in Fleck and Fenter.
Yes. Okay.
Cobus Vasaki on this side against Richard Harry.
Good start by Harry. Nice solid contact. But it's got to be taken up by Blades on that tight head side.
Not going to happen otherwise. Crouch and hold. Engage.
Well, the scrum has been an Achilles heel for Australia in the Test series. And Australia penalised for going down.
Penalised Richard Harry. Colin Hawke, you've jumped the gun.
Your loose head.
Penalised the Wallaby loose head for collapsing.
So Yanni de Beer scored 26 points against the Wallabies in his last test against them in 1997.
Now, there's no way that Richard Harry collapsed there. He is able to pack without his putting his arm through. And it was Fasaki again who doesn't bind.
And there's De Beer's kick, a good one across field. Here's Matthew Burke. He follows and gets it. It's some very good covering there by South Africa. Robbie Fleck across.
A beautiful judgment there from Matthew Burke. Summed up Kaiser and just chipped ahead so delicately. And just good cover there from the Springboks gives Burke no chance.
Classic play by a fullback. Keep it up the line where it's under your control.
Good spoiling by David Giffen. Van der Westhuizen going straight down the touchline. Wallabies let it bounce. Knocked ahead by Erasmus.
One there and one there. Goal scrum. Crouch and hold.
Andrew
please.
Blades going down here.
It is a bit loose. Come this way a wee bit.
So one of the
Hold it.
Australians requiring
Have a
attention. We've had 4 minutes of play.
Already the referee talking about the loose surface.
No score at Newlands.
The binding must go up. The binding must go up and across. Thank you.
So Chris,
work.
you'll have a close eye on this scrummaging here.
It was good work from Richard Harry. He went to the referee in the break and said, look, I'm allowed not to bind, but the other bloke has to. The referee repeated that to the two scrums.
Come in here. Come in square.
No reason for Richard Harry to take this scrum down. It's a good strong prop. He's got his arm up. Fasaki has every reason to close this gap off.
Crouch and hold.
He's got to bind up on.
Right, stay square. Stay in.
So good solid Australian scrum. Here's Horan. Sandwich that time, Nathan Gray.
I've got him. Get away. Thank you. A lot quicker. Must release him.
So killing the ball there, South Africa. Not rolling away from the tackle player.
Well, apart from the penalty, Nathan Gray did incredibly well to get that ball back on Wallaby territory with 3 or 4 Springboks hitting him. Excellent kick from Matthew Burke.
Well, the tactic seems to be to attack South Africa in close around that number 12. Gray's made one very good bust, but he was certainly wrapped up that time.
I think you'll see that with Horan with limited kicking options and 2 strong centres and an apparent weakness in the Springboks there. That'll be the go.
Well pulled down there by the Australians just outside the quarter. So some obstruction there by the Australians.
You okay?
And Robbie Fleck. So the Springboks really tightening things up in midfield. Some crunching defence.
Carry on.
Robbie Fleck put his body on the line that time as Joe Roth hit the back line like a rocket. Good to see the variation coming in here. Gray cuts Herbert.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. The ball passed behind, who was it, Herbert, that came in as the decoy. The ball wasn't carried behind him at all. It was done on the gain line and is allowable. And Colin Hawkes made 2 decisions, both penalties against Australia, both I feel wrong.
So here's Narkodrovsky. Over the back, that's Erasmus. Andre Venter. Brendan Venter. 10-metre line. South Africa set up well. Yanni de Beer again. Well read by Joe Roth. Burke's kick to the 10-metre line. Montgomery. Driven back in the tackle as South Africa takes ahead and cleans out well.
It's only a tackle. There's no one on their
That
feet.
was a really important ball there for Percy Montgomery. He's been under so much pressure this week from being booed last week in Pretoria. Looks as though he may have taken that ball and lost in that breakdown, but got it back.
In you go.
Great contact from the Aussie scrum.
Here's Erasmus. They work it well, and Dion Kaiser went without it. Well, they can't afford handling errors like that, South Africa. Strong attacking position, and Kaiser, who did so well last week,
And you leave him
spilt the
alone,
beams.
please.
Notice the obstruction to the side of the scrum there as Cobain was held in by one of the Springboks.
Long way. Ball's here, engage!
Better holding him, knowing they were coming short side. Just hold the man. He's the first off the scrum.
Quick clearance that time from Gregan. Probing kick from Horan. Montgomery courageously took it outside his quarter. South Africa have set it up again here.
Last.
Under Westhuizen goes
There you
in.
go. Yep.
Plenty of time for Yanni de Beer. Here's Big Joe Roth. Well, that's another loose pass from the Australians. Ben Tune. Caught just short of halfway. Cobain's back there. So is Gibbon. Wallabies driven back. We've seen a lot of loose passes from the Australians.
In the tackle.
Just haven't settled in the opening 10 minutes.
Well, they're really trying to push that ball wide, and it's something which they haven't done on a regular basis, and Campo's had plenty to say about that.
Yeah, I think, though, if you're going to counter-attack, great pressure from Herbert, who rolls Percy Montgomery over, nearly gets the turnover. But if you're going to go wide, you do it first. Joe Roth took a couple of steps, stuttered, and then passed, and he brought the defence onto the attacking players.
Good variation from De Beer. Here's Ben Tune. And he's solidly met. Gregan goes in. Good wide pass to Gray. He hesitated. He's thumped by Montgomery. Kaiser came in. It was a tackle. South Africa has the ball. They've turned it over.
Now, South Africa won that ball, but the player can't be on his knees in the vicinity of the ruck and play the ball. And the referee allowed him to play because it came free. Watch Gray. He gets tackled. He's isolated. He lays it back here. That's fine. There on his knees, he's not allowed to play the ball. He was on his feet initially. As soon as he goes to ground, he's got to let it go.
Yeah, probably a fine line there. I think he got the benefit of the doubt from the referee.
You sounded like a Northern Hemisphere referee, Butter.
I think they're trying to sort of make sure that that area within the vicinity of the ruck and maul is policed by people on their feet, and that's fine. So they've got to stay up.
So scrum to go down. The Australians have started slowly again here, despite missing a try early on. They've made some errors that have allowed South Africa to get vital possession.
And again, Kobus Fasaki on this side of the scrum not binding when he makes the contact, and that's creating the danger in the packing. So the referee comes this side and he binds up.
Now they work the back row again for Van der Westhuizen. Here comes Kaiser. Tode Kefu down on the loose ball.
Stay up, please. Don't go down on him.
Kaiser makes another mistake. Left his feet on the tackle player.
Well, he's very enthusiastic. That was a very silly mistake. Just falling on the Australian player across to make cover for the kick through. Springboks, you can see that Mallett's got them playing a similar style that Mertens displayed at Pretoria last week, using a lot of tactical kicking out there, especially De Beer.
Good cover defence by the Wallabies here. Gregan goes to the first man, and look at the sweeper, number 8. Kaiser coming off his feet. What he's got to do is stay up and grab the player. Then it's a tackle. Kefu's forced to release.
Well, the South Africans are keeping the Australian defence guessing. Taken by Venter at the back. That's Fasaki. Osdorat. Beautifully tackled by Matt Cobain. Under Westhuizen again. Over Joe Roth's head.
Waste the ball. Absolute waste of ball, that by Van der Westhuizen. It had to go high. In behind Roth, he was planning it, but it had to hang.
Well, they've clearly very wary of the Australian defence. There's just a lot of kicks going through, a lot of variations in kicks. Not really prepared to take on the Australian backline in defence.
Come on, Phil, hit the man.
Phil Kearns in his 64th international. And George Gregan. Vandenberg got a flyer. Good pressure there from the big number 5. I thought he was right on the offside line, and he put the pressure on Matthew Burke. There he is. He was okay.
He's quick, isn't he? And there, of course, kicking into the back of your own player.
Accidental offside was the ruling. Yanni De Beer goes himself. Well, this is De Beer now. That was Venter. Half high for Roth. Kayser's there. Burke couldn't handle. And then cleaned up nicely, but the ball travelled forward.
Not recovered.
Referees ruled, although Burke regathered the ball, it hit the ground, and he can't believe it.
It was a storming start from the Australians in this game, but now Springboks have just been unrelenting. And, the Australian 25.
Well, Burke recovered it before it hit the ground, but it may have touched an opposition player.
De Beer again works to Venter. Clever little pass there. Australia's defensive line under a bit of pressure here as Oz Durant charges ahead. Van der Westhuizen goes left. Montgomery comes in. Ben Tune had him well covered.
Referee was playing advantage back centre field for an offside in the ruck.
Your number 8 drives straight through the man without the ball.
Todai Kefu.
He come through and took a man out without the ball. Played advantage. Yeah, but I mean, you can't. He dives straight through.
The Springboks are a lot more assured in this game. They're showing a lot more composure, and they're showing a lot more variation in attack. They're causing a few problems for the Australians at the moment.
Turnovers killed the Springboks against the All Blacks, as we see 0-0 here at Cape Town.
There's someone holding the ball up here for De Beer, and he gets first points in the game. And that just gives you an idea how strong this swirling breeze is. And that probably is accounting for some of the balls that have gone to ground so far.
That's where he's penalised Kefu for taking out Brendan Venter. Last week, turnovers killed the Springboks against the All Blacks. There's been 5 from the Wallabies so far, 1 from South Africa.
Well, that was Australia's big problem against the All Blacks too. The number of turnovers. And there's Cobain doing the hard yakka.
Hey,
Really good front-on tackling. Wallabies getting to the man and just getting in their way. They've got to stay in this territory now. This is the pressure area. Force some errors from the Springbok defence.
Venter's lost a contact lens in this big hit.
Gets hit right in the face by Cobain, who just jams at him, and they nearly turn the ball over here as David Wilson in support. There's a mad scramble, but they're going forward before the breakdown, so they get the put in.
So a delicate operation as the contact lens is replaced. Andre Venter made his test debut against the All Blacks at Durban back in 1996. He's a fitness fanatic. Yanni De Beer enjoying himself so far.
Last feet, you going there? You got back? Yeah, gotcha. You right
Secure ball here for South Africa. De Beer working that touchline, but kick lets him down. Here's Burke. That one goes straight up. Well taken by Selborne Boom.
10 metre circle.
The Australian players were in front of the kicker. Kick was a bad one for Burke, and the referee has ruled that he didn't run them back onside. They remained inside the 10 metres.
He was exactly right, because Ben Tune fell over and just stayed within that area before being put back onside, and this will hurt them. Look straight down into the pressure territory for the Springboks, and they've used the kicks very well to keep turning the Wallabies around.
So all those Wallabies haven't retired outside the 10 metres. They're all inside the 10 metres. Wilson's offside, and
Tune was okay, wasn't he,
Yeah.
Gordon? But it was Wilson.
And there was a big roar as Vandenberg takes the ball for Percy Montgomery as he found that touch from the penalty. He was booed last week. Yanni De Beer collared in the tackle. Ball coming back for Van der Westhuizen. He has a look both sides. South Africa, head down, backside up. This is Venter. Fleck wanted the inside ball. If he'd held on, the try line was his.
Well, smart work there. They're sending Oz to run up to take out Tim Horan in defence. Then sent it wide. Fenter trying to get that ball back inside to Fleck.
Gray's tackle, the bootlace tackle, was a classic. Just cut his legs out from underneath him and that ball spilled forward.
Andrew Blades just losing his footing there at tight head, but the scrum holding on well. Good probing kick, Montgomery, strong. South Africa accidentally offside. The referee says it's a penalty, Australia.
Well, Selborne Boom had a big look at that ball, so referee decided it wasn't accidental.
It was great play, wasn't it? Pressure taken off by Gregan, kept the ball in touch and put pressure on Montgomery to field.
Well, Joe Roth hasn't got the touch from the penalty. Harpy Tatoi did that 3 times. Roth now has a second bite. That's skewed off the side of his boot.
Come on, Joey, wake up. This is a very important test match.
The Springboks seem much more settled with the conditions than the Wallabies. Wallabies right at sea.
I think we might be underplaying the strength of that wind right in their face. Obviously, very distracting.
So halfway line, South Africa ahead by 3-0. Strong jump by Vandenberg. Kefu coming through on the wrong side.
Oh, no. Not the second guy. The first one,
Vandenberg
maybe.
won the bulk of the ball for the Springboks last week. Won 12 lineouts. Number 2 penalty for Kefu.
Here it is.
Kefu finding himself in no man's land here and was quite rightly penalised.
Well, the Wallabies need to switch on.
Kefu, sorry, Gordon, just watching you watch Kefu tries to go up the ball and then he's around the wrong side, and so then he gets bumped over.
Well taken by Venter. David Giffen tackled him in the air.
At the top of the jump. Leave him alone. Put him down at the top of
So
the
the
jump.
Wallabies committing a lot of
Just have a look out there holding the ball in the ball. Okay.
errors so far in the opening quarter of the game.
He's a really good line-out jumper, Andre Fenter. Moves around the line-out this time, jumping, well, at 2 or 3.
And you must leave him alone until he gets back to terra firma. So Yanni de Beer, who punished Australia 2 years ago in the 61-22 victory for South Africa, has another chance here. It's 3-0. This is his 3rd test match against Australia. And this to put South Africa out by 6 points. Lit off there for the Wallabies. The wind taking that one away. So the Springboks at Newlands lead by 3-0. Matthew Burke in his 37th international made his debut against South Africa back in 1993 at the Sydney Football Stadium. This is his first test at this ground. Van der Westhuizen's kick held up by the breeze. Here he comes. Horan's there. South Africa have it outside the quarter. Quick service. De Beer goes wide to Venter. Good tackle again by Cobain. Drop goal attempt from De Beer. Pushing it out to the left.
Loves a drop goal, De Beer. That time, the wind spoilt the party.
This is the classic fly half roll for the Springboks. They'll do this any time the occasion arises. And happy days, Ronnie Howard look-alike. And very expressionless there. The wind taking it, pulling it left.
Well, his experience is certainly showing through in this Springbok backline as Burke goes over halfway. Erasmus now. He said Australia can't win the World Cup. Rassie Erasmus.
Get up.
Well, that's been unlucky for the Australians because in the tackle
Thank you.
they won the ball off Rassie Erasmus, but then it was a ruck
Everyone stays up.
because
I'll
it
be
went to
sweet, man.
ground
See
and
ya.
it was
You
the
don't drive
team
till I'm
going
done.
forward beforehand that gets
Come
the
on a
put
wee
in.
bit, crouch and
Good
hold.
decision by Colin Hawke.
Come in a wee bit.
Good effort by this Australian front row so far. Really making good contact.
I think there might have been a bit of help from the touch judge this time,
Thank
Chris,
you. The binding.
against Fasaki
Yeah, I don't think we can blame that
for
one.
not binding. The referee couldn't have seen that, but the touch judge on this side did.
It's about time. And Kovas Fasaki looking across. You can imagine what he's saying under his breath.
So Matthew Burke gives Australia a platform here on the 22. Tian Strauss awaits on the bench.
Now that player letting go there and going down to his knees. Good pressure by Richard Harry, forcing Fasaki down to his knees.
Matt Cobain. Here's Phil Kearns. David Giffen supported. 15 metres from the goal line. Here's Horan and Herbert. Good tackle by De Beer.
Stand up. Oh,
Sustained pressure's
well done. You're on the
what's
deck,
needed
mate.
from the Wallabies. Build
Yeah,
it, build
both
it,
got a
build it.
release.
They need many phases of play.
Guys, clean it out on the deck. I'm gonna
Danny
put you
Herbert on
down.
the bus then, but
Crouch and
our
hold, thank
support's
you.
got to get quicker to the
Engage.
breakdown.
Look at the patchwork of Newlands ground. They've had the same sorts of problems. You can see big tufts out that the football stadium had earlier in the season. It looks like a market garden, doesn't it? That patchwork
Come
quilt.
out, over here, guys. Thanks.
And certainly the seating seems to have taken a lot better than Super 12 though.
Engage. In you go.
Turf holding up well.
Oh, no, it's going. Let it go. Let it go.
So that was Australia's scrum feed.
I reckon Colin Hawke was badly positioned there. He was close in to see the contact, but he was in the way of the scrum. And when it starts to move, George Gregan cannot put it in. It's got to be stable. And I think Colin Hawke's a bit nervous.
He's a bit flustered at the moment, the referee.
Watch one of his highs, he runs to one of his own players. Herald, the support player, does.
The Australians were all inside the 10 metres. Here's Horan. Nathan Gray just bouncing off opponents like a pinball that time. Horan works it again to Joe Roth. Wallaby forwards there in numbers this time. They get a good drive on. Gray to Horan. Tune trying to go on the outside. Through a shocking pass. And South Africa back in possession.
Nathan Gray got kicked at the bottom of that ruck. You could see the anguish on his face. But good scrambling by the South Africans to get out of what was a potentially difficult situation.
Well, a Hail Mary pass by Ben Tune, intercepted by Rousseau. Just hurls it back inside there, which I think was the right thing to do. Rousseau anticipated and Gray comes in for the big hit.
Gray gets stomped there by, I think it's the second row. It was a beauty right down the middle of the back.
Kovas Fasaki having a good battle with Richard Harry as Vandenberg goes high. They work it round the open sides. Tune has a second go at it. Defence is strong again. Gregan's there.
Stay up, please. On your knees, round the other side's all right, but you're on off your feet.
They're just doing the fly halves.
It's only a tackle, you're correct,
As
but
the
you're on the
Australians
knees.
take this penalty, De Beer
Stand up.
has had 11 possessions. He's kicked on 7 occasions, run on 2 and passed on 2, and Horan's had 8 and passed on 7 occasions.
Well, in the 6th jersey for the Springboks, Andre Voss, who spent a lot of time with the Queensland Reds. I think he's been put in this team because his work rate is good, particularly on the tight side of the scrum. He knows these players very well. Tune misses first time and then takes it forward.
Fenter.
Just will not leave him alone.
And there's the offender, Peter Rousseau, number 11. Cobain got it. Here's Dan Herbert. Again, the loose pass coming from Gregan puts Australia under pressure.
Just very strong defence coming through from the Springboks. They're really driving through the Australians.
Seem to be coming up very flat in a line right across the field, and this is terrific concentration. They know they've got the wind behind them. 3 points isn't good, and all the Australians going over the man, and then maybe not so much after the man.
There's some very willing rucking out there.
Great to see.
Here's Kaiser, look at this. That's Dan Herbert. Here's Horan. And Montgomery in the last line.
Tim Horan's set up David Campese's 50th try at this ground with one of the best pieces of play I've ever seen. And this potentially could have been everything for the Wallabies. Look how he looms and comes there wide. Tries to chip ahead, keeping it inside, and if it had squeaked past Montgomery, it was on.
So David Gibbon targeted here. It was over his head. Another bad line-out throw. Here's De Beer. Andre Foss goes to ground. Cobain again the tackler.
Ball's around this side. Have a
Well,
look.
this is rubbish. You said it good. In those situations, that ball's got to go to hand. Can't have it international rugby missing that opportunity. The throw was straight. There's difficult winds, but got to hit the man.
That's Matt Burke. Ferocious defence from South Africa. On the halfway line. Horan in behind, looking for the touchline. Yanni De Beer with plenty of time here.
I think what it's needed is a bit more of a kicking game from Tim Horan. Even into the wind, the idea was right, but the execution probably didn't go exactly as he wanted it. They need that variety, because if they're just simply to spin all the time, then the Springboks are just drifting off him and going on to the other backs, and it makes it difficult to penetrate.
Are you on?
Van der Westhuizen clears it there to the 10-metre line. This is Venter. Gregan the tackler. Venter very strong. Sets it up beautifully now for Boom. Good tick and drive here from the Springboks. They want continuity. Venter comes in. Visaki, it's intercepted by Australia and knocked on.
First one, second one. All right.
Matt Cobain looks like he's got one of those hip things there. They're nice sore ones.
Well, he's been one of Australia's best. It's South Africa, 3-0. Matt Cobain still getting some attention there from Greg Craig, the Australian physiotherapist. And he's ready to resume.
Okay.
So
Crouch and hold.
there's
please.
the strength of the breeze.
Binding. In you go.
And South Africa in a good attacking situation here. A big Australian scrum. Erasmus getting in behind the Australian back row that time. Selborne Boom. Australia stand their ground. Yanni De Beer. Angles to touch. He liked it. 7 metres out.
Well, De Beer's really putting the pressure on to Phil Kearns on the throw. The Australians in this wind have to go short, use Bowman,
Yeah, no
go
problem.
for the safety.
An Australian hand around the ball there, getting a nice little dust up. And I think that's probably fair if you've got your arm around it and you just get told, take it away. Bowman at the front. Nice flat, hard throw. Cuts down the opportunities, but it's got to go to the man, because see the gaps further back, but where Cobain is between Kefu and Cobain.
Australia does well at the front. Now they edge ahead. George Gregan's kick goes straight up. Erasmus wanted it and took ownership. Selborne Boom mauled it. That's the quarter line. Yanni De Beer. Big cut out here for Fleck. Ball and all from Dan Herbert.
Hey!
Van der
You know what you
Westhuizen
do?
angrily saying there that Herbert made no effort to roll away.
Well, Herbert was making an effort to get away.
He can't get out of
Van
it.
der Westhuizen's the captain of the team, isn't he? So
You put a foot on him, you did.
they'll need to be very careful. They let frustration.
Terrific ball and all tackle here from Herbert on Fleck. Goes to ground.
Erasmus having plenty to do from number 8, but Gregan was so strong there.
Last feet.
Vandenberg goes in to scrum half. Fenta eludes him. Rousseau. He's creamed. Andre Vos brought down by the Australian cover. Van der Westhuizen now. The crowd getting behind the Springbok team. Can Australia pilfer it here?
Fantastic ball from David Wilson.
And Tim Horan's kick off the side of his boot. Here's Montgomery. He has a run. That's the quarter line. Herbert again in with a big hit. Big line for South Africa here. Kaiser. Horan got the intercept and is driven backwards. Gregan now. And Australia again scramble it back. Yanni de Beer to Erasmus. They come again, South Africa. They lead by 3-0 as we close on half-time. Van der Westhuizen kicking in behind. That's not a good one. And the pressure off Australia.
Well, this is the level of rugby you get found out if you can't kick with a complete range. And Tim Horan under pressure.
Yep.
And he put a ball that lobbed centre field, and that's heart attack country. Be wanting to settle it down, and you saw how he then supported the ball so much better, stronger on his feet. Now he'd be hoping this one goes into touch.
So Van der Westhuizen underplayed his hand so well last week. He's probably trying just a little too hard to inspire the Springbok team.
Wasn't a good delivery of the ball. Daniel Herbert has been absolutely heroic in defence out there.
Good tackle there by Big Tom Bowman. Fenta works it to Erasmus. Look at this charge from Voss. Robbie Fleck argues the toss with the referee. Horan plays on quickly.
Keep it down.
South Africa come in
Lost mine.
and steal the ball. Van der Westhuizen goes out on the full. Comedy of errors.
And a highly motivated defence such as this one from South Africa, Tim Horan's got to have support going with him from a quick tap.
I reckon the number 8's offside here. They go to ground. He comes from the wrong side. There's no ruck. There's no maul form. Referee said play on.
The maul did form though, Chris. I think you're right there. And then he played it off his feet. Bowman couldn't hold on. Here's Gray. Australia just getting over the advantage line. Horan in a spot of bother as Fenta
Come back.
came through.
No advantage.
This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to get up on the outside of Tim Horan. Put a lot of pressure on his decision making in close. And there was a forward pass to Daniel Herbert before this. The referee was playing advantage and Horan not able to get out of the hole that he'd dug for himself.
There's Kefu going ahead. Australia low, cleaning out well. Quick ball. Loose pass there from Horan. Herbert cleans up. Nice pass there from Gregan to Herbert and Gray. Doing the job of the forwards. George Gregan again. Vandenberg came through to spoil. Big clean out from Ben Tune that time. This is better build-up from Australia. Joe Roth. Good tackle by Drotsky. Gregan, straight up the middle, just caught by Vandenberg.
Australia can't get isolated, can they?
They play on quickly. Well, there's plenty of stray boots going in there at the moment. Here's Rousseau. He hesitated, offloaded to Boom. Wallaby defence regroups.
Tremendous Wallaby defence. The tackling is superb right across the field and frustrating the Springboks. They just can't get across that line without kicking.
Here's Joe Robb.
I think Joey's on another planet.
One thing which is a great concern is the Australian forwards really aren't getting there in a big way in the clean out. Springboks are, and life is a misery at the breakdown.
So Joe Robb's kick coming off Kaiser, and Australia with the line-out throw.
Look at that line-out. Tall men, green and go. They look like a can of asparagus, all standing up straight.
Giffen mistimed his jump, but Cobain was Johnny on the spot. Good work there by the Australian forwards. Andrew Blades, pick and drove. Coming up towards the 10-metre line. Support arrives, but they cannot get it back.
Green scrum, turnover. Marks here.
So you'd have to say honours with the Springbok pack in the first half.
Come up.
Certainly no, not in the scrum. I think they lack the oomph from behind them. And there again, Fasaki, his bind coming off.
No problem.
And that's what causes that scrum to collapse. Richard Harry's doing a great job there in the front row.
Here you are. Come in and square, thank you.
Phil Kearns packing nice and close.
Righto.
And that time Harry's hand comes off the bind. A lot of pressure as they hit.
There's your binding, that's the first
And I don't think it's Fasaki's fault that time. He had the bind up on, and it was Richard Harry's arm that slipped off when he couldn't get a grip.
It wasn't a deliberate collapse either. It was a crook decision.
It certainly was a crook decision. And Fasaki, badly done by there. Just watch. The two have got a bind, and they do initially. Richard Harry puts up. He can't get a grip. Then the settle comes. Fasaki's leg goes back and slips out, and they both collapse. Now, that's just a dynamic slip with a lot of weight, and one person's foot goes back and it collapses.
There was so much pressure on there, something had to give.
This is a pretty ambitious attempt from Matthew Burke in these conditions.
I think it's well worth it, don't you? Simon, they haven't been able to penetrate any other way. I think it'd give them the lift that they needed, but this is going to have to have some real oomph behind it. It's a difficult attempt.
There haven't been too many chances for either side. This would level the scores. Burke is on target. It's a magnificent strike by Matthew Burke, and Australia levels up. A timely penalty just before half-time.
I think that kick worth about 10 points.
And Peter Rousseau showing that he could do a John Eales with that crossbar. Former pole vaulter. Kick just going to 10, but out on the full.
Well, here's an opportunity for the Wallabies as the first half closes. The Springbok pack committed to the scrum.
Ball still coming. Ball's here.
Ed Morrison, the touch judge on the far side.
Thank you, square it. In you go.
So can the Wallabies take something extra into half-time as Gregan kicks in behind. Percy Montgomery was there. Van der Westhuizen. Rousseau. Into the teeth of the Australian forwards. So some Phil Kearns getting his boot in the way there. The old stager. A crafty old trick, that one, spoiling the halfback while he was lying on the ground.
No, that's it.
Ross Durant having some problems with the back. He's getting some work earlier in the game, and nice sign to see Andrew Blades going very well against him.
That's half-time. Matthew Burke getting the equalising penalty just a few seconds before the break. It's one penalty goal apiece.
South Africa 3, Australia 3. We'll be back shortly.
The Western Cape, a region of great diversity, featured in our Qantas postcard. Tabletop Mountain, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, Cape Town. Originally settled by the Dutch to supply fresh food and produce for the East India Company. 3-3 the half-time score at Norwich Park in Newlands, and I would suspect the crowd a lot happier because the Springboks have been very competitive in this first half. They've bustled the Wallabies and they had chances to hit the lead there close to half-time. Simon Poitevin and Chris Handy, 10 turnovers from the Wallaby team. They've carried on where they left off at Eden Park.
Yeah, they did. The composure's been really bad, but it's been a swarming defence, very aggressive defence from the Springboks, as we always see in South Africa. The players under a question mark. Fenta's done very well. Montgomery's having a good game for the side, and De Beers having a very good game.
Well, here are the statistics, Simon and Chris, and the half-time score 3-3.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of penalties out there, and both sides giving some very silly penalties away. Our line-out's having some problems. We've lost 3 balls to the Springboks. Turnovers to the Australians, 10 out there, and a lot of lack of concentration. And Tim Horn has had 14 possessions out there. Had to pass a lot because the wind was right into his face, and De Beer really mixing his game up.
South Africa's defence has been very well organised in the first half, but Australia attacked brilliantly, Chris, in the opening stanza.
They did. Gray has really fought with the ball every time he had it, and they worked themselves into pressure situations. But a couple of passes that went astray have cost them dearly. A couple of line-outs in the South African territory have also been, that went astray, have also been a problem. But they built it, but this ball, trying to pick it up off the ground, though David Giffen did well, really cost them in momentum.
Big swirling breeze, and it's playing havoc with some of the passing. Now, that was a bad pass, admittedly, a try went begging, but the conditions are difficult for both sides.
Great tackle here by Gray down low, spills that ball forward, and a potential try for South Africa goes astray.
So just a couple of penalty goals in that first 40 minutes. One to Yanni De Beer, who's done a terrific job at number 10 for South Africa, and Matthew Burke in the shadows of half-time. So South Africa enjoying the narrow lead for most of that first half, but Australia coming back splendidly. We'll take a break now and be back for the resumption of the second half. See you shortly. And the Wallabies back out onto Newlands, and it looks as though they are intact for the second half. David Wilson becoming the world's most capped flanker today. David Wilson playing his 66th international and also playing his 13th test against South Africa, passing the late Greg Davis. So he's played every match against the Springboks since unification in 1992, and he's having plenty to say, Simon Poitevin.
Well, look at the territory and possession. Possession 65% to South Africa, territory 59%. They did have a big wind behind them that first half, so the Australians have to really play for territory in this second half, give themselves some relief from the great pressure coming from the Springboks in attack and defence.
So what about options of people coming off the bench? Chris Handy, Tiaan Strauss warming up, Brendan Fenter's off the field. So that's a disappointment. Now, he had a shoulder arthroscopy last Friday. He's come back from that operation to play, and he's been replaced.
Who have they brought on? Huffy du Toit, possibly, because they've only got Brayton Paulser.
Brayton Paulser's on, and it looks as though Kaiser has moved into the centre.
Well, that'll force a change.
And that causes problems for South Africa, doesn't it? Because they were in disarray in Brisbane when they lost Peter Muller.
Well, Fleck comes into inside centre, that means, and they're different running lines. You know, they're specialist jobs, particularly when you're playing against a Nathan Gray or a Daniel Herbert. So let's see the opportunities for the Wallabies.
So South Africa's defence was so well organised there by Fenter in the first half. But it's a different ball game now, an opportunity for Australia to attack in that midfield area. Is Matthew Burke. Hunter Westhuizen to the 10-metre line. Rousseau played with more confidence in this match. Hunter Westhuizen Yanni de Beer. Nice kick. Erasmus there. Just chipping over the top of the Australians. Van der Westhuizen looks to the right. Voss's pass put Kaiser under pressure. And Australia turns over.
Tackle backwards.
Gray's tackle was a beauty. Dragged him over, and they seem to be doing that now, that drag tackle. They hit hard, go past the man and pull him down so he's facing the opposition, not their own side.
Thank you, Binding.
Good chance to look at Os Durant, and Andrew Blades is holding his position well.
And Matthew Burke. Back to Montgomery. This is his home turf. Electric break from Montgomery. Brilliant thrust from the fullback. De Beer. Kaiser did well to handle that one. Here's Fleck. Herbert again. That was Nathan Gray around his ankles. Os Durant. Back to Kaiser. Good security from the South Africans. De Beer runs at the defence. Wanting to offload a brilliant pass. Wilson tried to handle.
All this early pressure has come from the fact that Matthew Burke twice has not found touch. As we saw in Auckland, it just puts a huge load on the Australian defence out there. And here we have the Springboks very well positioned.
Yes, when Matthew Burke went for that last kick, no one came up for South Africa in defence.
Thank you. Square there. Stay down.
Erasmus works it to Van der Westhuizen.
Quiet, get away, get away. Away you go.
Kaiser did well to hold on that time. 3-all the score. Os Durant with a little chip ahead. Not a good one, Ox. And Australia clear it. Well, that certainly let the pressure off. And this is Montgomery. He unleashes. Montgomery got a nasty knock early on against the All Blacks last week, but he's showing signs of his old form.
Side of the field. Brendan, anything to worry about?
You mentioned that this is Montgomery's home ground, Gordon, and he's looking much more comfortable out there.
But I'm really struggling to lift my arm.
Just briefly, what was the half-time talk all about?
Oh, we're getting there, you know, we're playing well, we've just retained possession. And
So now Phil Kearns. Yes, we just heard that Brendan Fenter is having problems with that shoulder. He just can't lift the arm. This is good build-up from Australia. Gregan now quickly. Here's Horan. Kicking the ball away. Montgomery. Well caught by Tune. Can Australia force a turnover here?
There it is, I see.
Coming back for South Africa. De Beer's pass back in field to Voss. Van der Westhuizen goes wide. Quick hands. Take it to Kaiser. Now they lose it. Voss couldn't receive the ball. It was knocked down by an Australian.
Now, Pulser and Kaiser are having some problems. Just that organisation when you're playing out of position in a test match against the defence's focus is that from Gray. And then from Kefu.
Square up.
The ball unfortunately going ahead off the hands of Kearns.
Yanni de Beer's kick is charged down. This is Cobain, caught by Montgomery. Gregan. Lost a head there by Vandenberg. Referee hasn't seen it, and now he does.
First one, Greg. Yeah.
Getting a bit of help there from his touch judge.
Thank you.
Well, look, again, an excellent pick-up by an Australian forward, that time Cobain. It's Tian Strauss warming up the sideline, another injury.
15 tests for South Africa.
Be interesting to see what they do in this game, whether they move Strauss on for Kefu.
Is it blood or what?
I think they need the strength of Kefu on the field. Maybe that Cobain is the one moved and Strauss goes onto the tight side of the scrum.
So the match delicately poised.
Cobain, big hit from Percy Montgomery. Good help from one of his friends, Ian Voss.
Come on, please.
So play about to go on here. Scrum to go down.
It's going to be a goal scrum, lost forward green. Crouch and hold, please. Okay. Stay on.
It's Kefu at the back. He was caught by Van der Westhuizen and the error forced. That is good harassing from the Springbok skipper.
Kefu just ready to play, and just watch it. He springs, picks up, and the tackle there around the arm. It's great defensive work.
Righto, in you go.
Van der Westhuizen much sharper this week than he was last week against the All Blacks.
Yes,
There's too many turnovers from the Australian team,
Come on a wee bit.
which must be concerning coach Rod McQueen.
Okay. Finding. Thank you. Stay on. Hey.
Van der Westhuizen from the deep channel this time. De Beer. He's been the general. Here comes Rousseau and Montgomery. Somehow Matthew Burke pulled that in heavy traffic. It was brilliant. Here's Herbert. A bad pass to Roth. It was behind him. It gave the defence a big chance to take advantage. Gregan. Australia with an opportunity here. Burke. This is Cobain. Hasn't he had a big game? Matt Cobain. Kefu's there. Nathan Gray flung to ground. Australia turnover again. Here's Van der Westhuizen. Back to Vandenberg. Rousseau goes into scrum half. Erasmus. Australians loitering there. The crowd not happy. They helped him in that decision.
Well, Erasmus took that ball forward, and it was Erasmus who snatched the ball from the Cobain breakdown. But fantastic rip by Tim Horan set that move going. Again, it's got to get numbers to the breakdown.
Kefu lucky not to be trapped earlier for a trip.
3-all at Newlands. Clever work to Drotsky. That's the goal line ahead. Very good variation. Osdurant. Australia defending grimly now. Springboks looking for what would be a vital score. Offloaded to Venter. Australian defence regathers. Van der Westhuizen so dangerous here. De Beer goes wide. That's Pulsar. South Africa cleans out well. Van der Westhuizen just caught. There it is. They lost a head. Australia out of jail. Vandenberg.
Australia lost one with the line wide open, and Vandenberg has done so well. This man dangerous, supported by the back row, and that pass, a shocker.
Naka, Drotsky.
An absolute wurzel, that pass. Try on and blown it.
Well, the Australians are in trouble here as Tian Strauss comes on.
Tian Strauss getting a big razz from this crowd in Cape Town. Home ground, former Western Province player, out from Stellenbosch as well.
Three all the score. Australia camped on their goal line here. It's controlled by Gregan. Scrum edges ahead.
Great scrum by the Wallabies.
Thank you.
That's the time to take that one forward. Wasn't presented so well at the back. They just kept the pressure on, and this works over the forwards of South Africa and keeps them held onto the scrum.
You Phil Kearns' voice coming out of that scrum, screaming to the Australians to drive it forward.
Van der Westhuizen coming through on a bad kick. Good pressure. Herbert again. What an outstanding performance from Daniel Herbert in this Australian backline. Tim Horan sliding it towards touch. Here's Rousseau. Montgomery again, halfway. Kept in play by Burke. It's a beauty. This is Brayton Pulsar. Very nippy customer. Tim Horan again. Strauss was with him. Montgomery. takes it brilliantly and gets the encouragement from his home crowd.
Really good rip from Boss there on Montgomery, cleared the ball.
Yanni de Beer angling again towards touch. 10 from halfway for Burke. He waits the kick this time, wanting South Africa to put it into touch. Osderunt, look at the Ox go. Big charge, 20 metres. De Beer, well read by Tune, and then he lost it. Montgomery, under Westhuizen. Rousseau charges after this one, but again kicked away by the skipper. Good defence by Venter. Australia has a chance here to recover. Gregan goes himself as he went without it, but there was some interference on the ground and some offside play as well.
A lot of interference going on the ground from the Springboks. They're just making every contest just a super contest as Matthew Burke shrugged aside by the big Osderunt.
Good passage of play from both sides. Good sustained effort, but everyone's trying the chip kick both into the wind and against the wind, and I don't think it's working. Got to take it up with plenty of support.
Still the half-time score, 3-3. So Matthew Burke wrapped up by Andre Venter, this tireless number 7. And now here's the ensuing penalty for Australia. And Chris Handy, Patricio Noriega coming on for probably Richard Harry.
That's the replacement now. It's up to Noriega to really hold that side, and I don't think that'll be a problem for him. He's very strong. Cobus Vasaki is, I think, done his work, but Ollie LaRue ready to come on for them as well.
Well taken by Giffen. Matt Cobain as first receiver. Well wrapped up by Osderunt.
Thank you. There it is.
Regan goes in. Springbok defence was up very quickly that time.
No, tackle only. Not called. Tackle. Still a tackle. Last feed now.
Australia protected. Horan. Nasty bounce. Rousseau. Back to Montgomery. He gets his pace going to get out of trouble. Australia down inside the quarter. Great pass from Van der Westhuizen. That's Erasmus wrapped up by the Australian cover. Van der Westhuizen slips it back.
Hands away now.
Rousseau's gone into scrum half. Cleared away though by Selborne Boom. Look at Herbert again. Ball and all tackle. Springboks keeping the ball in hand and finally clearing it. It's a good one. Robbie Fleck, another Western Province boy.
Percy Montgomery's been remarkable in this game. He's had a lot of pressure situations where he's got the ball back on every occasion.
And congratulations to Nick Mallett, who has been absolutely maligned by the media for playing Montgomery. But the coach stuck with his number 15 and he's delivered today.
Good defence centre field by the Wallabies. They're trying to turn the man.
Good throw there by Kearns. Tom Bowman taking that one with 2 hands. Kearns is there in the thick of it. Tian Strauss now and Noriega number 21. They're driven back though. Selborne Boom and Vandenberg getting nice and low. Now they have to get it back. Horan was under pressure. Ben Tune almost through. He got it. David Wilson. Brilliant thrust there by Ben Tune. It sets things up for the Australians here. They wanted some advantage though.
Almost professional foul territory, that one. The ball free and available for the Wallabies. And, I think that's Ruben Kruger on.
No, Jodrowsky's not too
It's
worried about this.
Yeah, it is.
And Ben Tune, at last we get a break
with support.
And support there from David Wilson. Sensational support.
Well, Ben Tune just smashing through Andre Foss's tackle, his former Queensland teammate. And that has paved the way for this three-pointer in prospect. So this one would put Australia in the lead for the first time. The blustery conditions have made it difficult for both sides. Matthew Burke looking for his second penalty. And he steered it through. So Australia by 6-3.
Now, one of the problems with the Wallabies on a rolling maul is that just basically one man, Oz Durant, is getting in there and virtually wrapping up the whole thing himself. He's such a strong player.
So just a bit of magic there from Tune, igniting things for the Wallabies. Will that be the platform for this second half surge? Tian Strauss. Matthew Burke steering it. Van der Westhuizen back there. And Montgomery. Strauss again, taking it to the defensive line. Montgomery running everyone on side. And some very good work there by the Springbok forwards.
Don't want to harp, but again, it's that numbers from the Springboks there at the breakdowns, killing us 4 out of 5 times as we have Ollie LaRue hitting the field and Oz Durant off.
They're looking for some power at loose head that they weren't getting from Oz Durant, who's having some trouble with his back. And see if the man who was born when meat was cheap can make any difference.
Oz Durant off the field. And now Van der Westhuizen really starting to orchestrate things, and Erasmus has been a big trier for the Springboks, and Vandenberg takes it ahead. Here's Fleck. Throws a little dummy outside. Needed support inside. South African players just missiles there. They launch themselves at the breakdown.
Not only diving over, but very dangerous players. They really just swept Matthew Burke back in the breakdown.
6-3 Australia.
He just about snaps Matt Burke in half as his legs drag over. He got juggernauted by a player behind him. It was a fair challenge, but in going over the ball, they've been penalised.
Yes, they really were Exocet missiles there, and let's hope that there's no leg injury for Matthew Burke. Watch his legs and his knees in particular here as he's wrenched backwards. His flexibility was good. Bad pass to Montgomery. Australia with a chance to take advantage here. De Beer. Offloaded well to Venter. Clever play by Yanni De Beer. Just sleight of hand, putting the runner into space. Here's Kaiser coming through, and Paulser. Brayton Paulser, sprouted wings.
Well, home ground too for Brayton Paulser. Knows the lie of the ground very well. This guy is having a very good second half with the ball in hand.
Well, the Cape Coloureds are fanatic supporters of rugby, and to see Brayton Paulser that time fly into the plate. Great position on the field for the Springboks.
Vandenberg storming through the Australian line-out. The Springboks looking for the first try of the game. A loose pass there to Venter.
Why they're going to back rowers in that situation is beyond me. They've done it where obviously they're not confident. Venter and also Erasmus are standing centre field. Simon and taking that ball off the ruck, which I think just limits their options.
You can understand it when they're trying to sort of get themselves out of the 25, 40 metres out, but close to the line, I couldn't agree more, Buddha.
I mean, back rowers are good, but in that situation, you need all the options available of somebody who can think really quickly on their feet. And this is a precious scrum for the Wallabies. New man on it, loose head, it has to hold. The ground unstable.
Gregan then with a big clearance to Matthew Burke. And he's taken play outside the quarter, just stretching those calves.
I think he still feeling the effects of being bent over backwards. Looks like he's trying to stretch those hammies in the back.
Just feeling his left leg particularly.
Excellent line there from Daniel Herbert, shutting Voss down to try and charge down Burke.
So who wants this game? Venter gets the line-out ball. Here's De Beer with a lovely pass inside to Erasmus. Again, punching defence from the Australians. Tian Strauss was there, so was Phil Kearns.
Phil Kearns has been very competitive at the breakdown tonight.
Just Van der Westhuizen being too verbal. I think he's getting in there very aggressively. Every time it goes to ground, he's saying Wallabies are at fault. He's doing a good job tonight. He's the general. They're lacking some direction out wide, and he has to take it and drive his forwards on. He is doing that.
So the Springboks trailing Australia by 3 at Newlands.
Call now for information on a club near you. Tennis, you're gonna love it.
Well, Simon, the London Scottish form hasn't held up too badly with Yanni De Beer.
He's done very well. He's in the first half did a lot of technical kicking. In the second half, he's provided that inside ball superbly to his runners.
Here's Erasmus again. Montgomery joins the line. Fleck and Rousseau.
Tackle, that's it. Get away now.
Van der Westhuizen. Nearly turning it back inside to Ollie LaRue. Selborne Boom seals it off. Montgomery called for that one. Boren couldn't take it. Phil Kearns arrived. So clever tactics there from South Africa, hugging the touchline.
I think you'll see Phil Kearns rested some stage shortly. Mark Connors coming to the sideline in number 20 jersey. Maybe coming on for Tom Bowman. He's probably feeling the effects of not having a lot of football at this level. A good move because he's very athletic, may be able to knock off a couple of those line-outs, and Tom Bowman comes to the sideline. Mark Andrews also the double change, and that'll give the Springboks strength at the front of their line-out and a bit of fire in the belly up front. He's a good footballer, Mark Andrews.
So we're taking this ball down and driving it very hard with Ollie LaRue looking for a spin-off.
See Greg Craig speaking to Phil Kearns just to check how he was feeling. Kearns, he said, "I'm fine. I'll keep going." Erasmus got it. Now the big grunt and shot comes from the Bok pack. 8 metres from the goal line. Ollie LaRue. Rousseau. Basaki. Gregan is there. Venter now. Van der Westhuizen. They're really having a go at the Australian goal line here. Australia leads by 3. Wallaby defence outstanding. Springboks maintaining possession. Pulser goes wide. Kaiser lost it. Pulser regathers. Swarmed upon by jerseys of gold. Now it's Pulser. Van der Westhuizen looking for his 27th test try. Somehow the Wallabies held out. Fleck goes himself and got it! Robbie Fleck gets his 3rd test try and South Africa hits the lead.
That was very methodical from the Springboks, from the line out on the other side to the try by Fleck. They just kept their cool, and Fleck just threw a little bit of disarray into the Australian minds by signalling the ball back out. As Wynn himself got the arm through and scored the try.
when you have the wind behind you and you play the game in your own half, you're going to be punished. Australia not able to get the ball out with any conviction. Their kicking game is just not there. Their defence is solid, though. Herbert misses this tackle on Fleck, one of the very few that on Van der Westhuizen. That set it up. That brought it to within inches of the line. And there, the great skill of Fleck, dummying behind his back, protecting the ball, plunges over the line.
Well, he got through 3 defenders, including Mark Connors, the new man, and he played them off a break, Robbie Fleck. Another player who's been heavily criticised by the media, the South African media. So Yanni de Beer, he's been a hero tonight for South Africa. Can he add a further 2? Beautiful strike. So the Wallabies are in trouble. They trail by 4. Test of character now. Australia has to win this game to keep the Tri-Nation Series alive. South Africa playing for pride, and they've been hungry. Matthew Burke then. He goes deep. This is Polsa. Very slippery. Van der Westhuizen setting up for his forwards to arrive. Andre Vos.
Lucky it's not a penalty. Lucky it's not a penalty.
Well, that was fortuitous for Australia. Yanni de Beer set to reach that ball downfield and crank the pressure up. Selborne Boom there with that side with ice on it. Great chance for the Wallabies. They've got to convert this quickly.
Might have been Erasmus, that one.
Yeah, I think Vos has moved to number 8 as Daniel Herbert takes it up.
Let it go! Out of it!
So let's just see if Ruben Kruger's on the field.
That'll be new.
We'll see the ball came back there from Herbert when the Springbok hand came through to bring back their side.
Hands in.
Decision time here for the Wallabies.
Pretty clear when you see it. The ball free on the Wallaby side, and you can't collapse over the ball to prevent the opposition getting at it. Watch the ball pop out the Wallaby side there, and Fleck goes there and just lays around it, and behind him the ball was picked up off the ground. It's a ruck, you can't pick it up.
So that's Ruben Kruger on for Rassie Erasmus.
And doesn't that toughen up the team? He is a good player as well.
Well, Erasmus certainly had a wholehearted game, probably his best test match of the season. Managed to get over the advantage line on several occasions. So Matthew Burke with a vital penalty shot here. Hasn't missed one so far. This to bring Australia back within 1. Safe as houses, Matthew Burke. South Africa 10, Australia 9.
Got to be using that field position this last 12 minutes. Get down there, force the Springbok error.
So the Boks are back. As De Beer goes for that corner. Tiaan Strauss. And Matthew Burke with a hurried clearance, taking play outside the 22. And still distressed after that knock, that tackle that sent him backwards about 10 minutes ago.
I think you may see a replacement though as goal kicker, maybe a strain in the leg area.
Andrew Blades has gone down here to assist Australia's cause. So still 10-9 in favour of South Africa. Great jump by Vandenberg. Matthew Burke up and okay, so too Andrew Blades. South Africa in the lead by a point. Yanni de Beer. This is a great kick. Burke under pressure here. That was courageous from the Australian fullback. Phil Kearns.
Last week
Australia really was in a spot of bother if that ball wasn't taken. And Nathan Gray on his left foot to Rousseau. Good offload there, and a lovely step from Kaiser. Well, that's Brayton Tulsa.
That's the second time the Box in the second half have run into another close end.
Come in a bit.
Tulsa's been very good since he's come on.
Still Australia's inability to clear the ball when in pressure situation. Going to Nathan Gray that time on his left foot just gives another attacking opportunity to the Springboks.
Stay on. Hey.
George Gregan puts it up. Now Montgomery. Good work there by the Springbok forwards who arrived to secure that ball.
You can't pick that ball up off the ground once it's down.
De Beer goes to the heavens again. That one hasn't got enough distance on it. No one wanted to take it. Phil Kearns picked it and plucked it to ground. Big pass from Gregan to Herbert. Now Burke loops. This is Horan. They're going nowhere. Herbert clears it. This is Ben Tune. South Africa's defence holding firm.
Stand up.
Well, Australia don't look like getting this ball out. They have got no kicking options from Tim Horan. And they're simply doing switches midfield to try and get a run at free. The attention and concentration of the South African defence, though they've had a number of changes, is super.
There is an option there in Caper, Chris. Do you bring him on?
I don't think Rod McQueen considers that an option, though he thinks a lot of Rod Caper. I don't think he'd be taking Tim Horan off, and maybe he should, but a lot of support there.
Oh, if you insist.
The possession 62% to the Box.
Here you are.
Very concerning.
And holding. Engage.
When you're in your own half for that length of time, it creates its own pressure.
And stay bound, Rook. No.
Matthew Burke, a study of concentration there, and that's his best clearing kick. He said, I gained more ground, touch judge. Not in those exact words.
And for all the lip readers around, they've no doubt about what Matthew Burke was intimating to the referee.
So Naka Drotsky then. Selborne boom. Well, that's Vandenberg. Boom off the field. Well, there's a bad mix-up in midfield. Might just be the little break Australia's been looking for.
Ross again, I think, on the ground. Pushing it back along the ground, and at the old alpha beta gamma move, it looked like just the ball went in the middle and dropped. That's Three Stooges stuff.
Well, that's what happens when there's a disruption to your back line, and this gives Australia a chance to hit the lead. Who wants it?
We had Federer as the dummy runner then. Kruger got in the way. Foss tried to clean up. Now Matthew Burke, is the injury that he's carrying out there going to stop him from putting this one over?
Well, if we go back to Subiaco in Perth last year, Burke had the chance to win the test match for Australia. He couldn't land the penalty goal, but he hasn't looked like missing tonight. This wind, though, is a big factor. It's over 40 metres out. But this one would put Australia in the lead, and I think he's going to struggle to keep this one just on the tee.
Look at the grass blowing around. Just usually at that level, there's not much movement, but it must deter your concentration a little bit when there's that much movement as you're looking down.
Well, this is one of the most important goal kicks of Matthew Burke's career. This to put Australia in the lead.
Just shaves the updrive.
He's pushed it out to the right. He struck it well. South Africa clings to a one-pointer.
That time can be becoming agonisingly close for the Wallabies. They've got to play it up in the Springboks quarter.
Coming down near the quarter line, and the mark paid there for Van der Westhuizen. He wanted it, and he's slowing things down now.
And he wants it downfield quickly.
And Montgomery's the man to do it, but should have got his touch and didn't. Here's Tune. He wants the bounce. Australia back on attack here. Another chance for points to snatch the lead. Gregan was too slow, caught by Vandenberg. This is Matthew Berg, and the referee's pulled it back. Why?
He's having trouble again. It's obviously, I think, an ankle injury, but says that ball was knocked forward. And Gregan had to pick and go.
He's ruled a knock on by Australia, and unless it was Horan.
I don't think Horan got a hand of that ball.
Well, I think it came from the touch judge, Mr. Morrison.
South Africa have been penalised 9 times the ruck and maul.
One of the many of the pretty faces of South African rugby. I don't think these Wallabies will be thinking about pretty faces at the moment. A win is so important for them. Equally so for the Springboks, who've just clawed their way, have just grafted a game that hasn't really flowed for them. And on comes Jason Little onto the left wing.
So Van der Westhuizen. Back to Yanni de Beer. Tiaan Strauss did well. It's Joe Roth. Springbok defence well organised here in midfield. Jason Little herring after it. Pulsar was back there with Montgomery. Now Rousseau. The 3 Western Province and Stormers guys in concert. Horan over in the centre of the field.
Well, Peter Rousseau can't seem to take a trick. David Giffen gets to him. He's really been out of sorts, but it wouldn't take much to get him back in. He does get some room here off this long pass from Montgomery. Stands up the defence, or tries to, and then Giffen does very well in getting to him, but he was out and the ball hit his foot.
Tremendous work there by David Giffen. Up he goes for the line out. Australia now getting the ball out to the outside centre from a set piece. Jason Little. Tiaan Strauss cleaned out. Here's Kearns. Caught by Kaiser. No knock on. Horan goes himself over the halfway line.
Crosses on the wrong side of the ruck.
He can stand there and pick that up. Plenty of tackle. He can stand there. It's not a ruck. It's a tackle.
Well, it was a good low drive from the Springboks.
Not a tackle. I didn't call a ruck.
So the referee said there was no ruck.
Yep.
It was still a tackle, so therefore Voss was entitled to pick it up, according to Mr. Hawke.
Stand up, gentlemen, thanks. And stay square. Square out, thank you. Crouch and hold.
That time creeps close for the Wallabies. You need to be within kicking range if they can't score.
Yanni de Beer again. Working it down to Joe Roth. Tiaan Strauss into a half gap. Time slipping away for the Australians. Here's Jason Little. Back to Kearns. Kearns got it to ground. No knock on. The ball actually bounced forward.
I say I don't know about you.
Oh, a bit lucky there.
But it was placed backwards, said the referee, then bounced forward. That's not a knock on. Let's see if it did go forward though here. If he places it back, it looked to go forward.
Plus then, Jason Little very lucky there, although there was a Springbok player lying all over him.
Now it's a measure of this Wallaby team to see whether they can convert this into a last gasp win. Ruben Kruger on the field. He'll do everything possible to stop this. Voss has been outstanding. He's really been a thorn in the Wallaby side tonight.
So 3 minutes to go of injury time. Big run there by Joe Roff again. Tion Strauss driven back by Andre Voss. The old guard and the new guards. And Voss gets a KO decision.
The man going to the ground. Diving in. You've got blood.
What a tackle that was by Andre Voss.
Well, he's got the Australians for diving in here.
It's a great tackle by Voss that brings it all about. Rock gets through, and look at this on the local hero, and that forces that man to ground, and they said that one came in off his feet. The Springboks save vital moments and get the put into this line out to launch another attack. You can't see them giving it away.
Well, the 24-year-old put the man 10 years older on his backside and has turned things round here for South Africa. 10-9. About 2.5 minutes to go. Voss getting some more attention.
Chris Rousseau on the field at hooker. And I think he's come on in a different position because Drotsky's still on.
Under Westhuizen to De Beer. Andre Venter. South Africa just surging ahead. There's a 1.5 minutes to go. Long range drop goal from De Beer. He's got the distance. That's centimetres short of the target.
Still means Australia's got to return the ball to South Africa unless they're very cunning.
That was the right option from De Beer.
See the time it saves.
Australia get a little drop kick over the quarter line. Rock was solidly met. This is Burke. Loose pass. Here's Van der Westhuizen. The referee's whistle has gone. Looks like penalty's been awarded. We'll have to wait and see.
To put into Australia. No advantage from a knock forward. Australia's scrambling, but it just doesn't appear as though they're going to be able to get the ball upfield. A lot of pressure from the South African defence.
Well, it's been a fantastic effort by this South African team. They were looking at 5 straight test losses. They've been written off by even their own country. They've certainly answered the critics. Australia with a last gasp chance for tune. Only seconds remaining. That player dived in and left his feet.
No one else did a pick it, so no penalty.
So Australia.
It was Voss again who's been everywhere.
This will be the last set piece of the game. The crowd is calling for full time. Australia trails by a point.
Now, why couldn't Australia get this ball wide like that earlier?
They're still short of halfway. Herbert's out there. And that is schoolboy stuff from the Australians. The ball's been knocked on. The referee looks at his clock. There's going to be a few more seconds. But I think we can say the All Blacks have won the Tri-Nation Series.
Nathan Gray is not a loop man, he's a hit man.
Australia having to win this match to keep their hopes alive. But South Africa with a 1-point lead would have to blow it big time to lose it from here.
Plenty of injury time on that clock. Australia have had their opportunities and I think they blew it. and they couldn't sustain some pressure when they had the opportunity in the first half. South Africa have run very well into this strong breeze in the second half and have scrambled so well.
He'll look at his clock here.
Stay in square, thank you.
It must only be seconds to go. South Africa by 10-9. Yanni de Beer doesn't get that touch. Here's Matthew Burke. David Wilson driven back in the tackle. Gregan throws a big dummy and ran into trouble. Turned over. Van der Westhuizen. She's all over. Pulsar almost getting the try, and that is full time. A marvellous victory for Joost Van der Westhuizen and the Springbok team. They deserved it. They got the only try of the game to Robbie Fleck. It came in the 22nd minute, and Yanni de Beer, who did a terrific job at fly half, kept turning Australia around, and they are just absolutely euphoric, this South African team, because they have copped everything from the media and from their fans. But the full-time score at Newlands, 10-9 to South Africa. Well, here was the chance for Matthew Burke to win the game for Australia. It looked good off the boot, but just faded right at the death, missing on the right-hand side, and South Africa survived. They needed some luck, they got it, and they emerged by 10-9, and they're now back on track for their World Cup campaign. They got the only try of the game to Robbie Fleck, De Beer a conversion and a penalty goal, and Matthew Burke 3 penalty goals. But really the story of that game was a lot of turnovers from the Australian team. I think there was something like 18, following on from the Eden Park loss to the All Blacks. And Simon, you'd have to say that's a big disappointment for the Wallabies.
Oh, so much to play for. Surely the Springboks had a lot to play for. They've copped heaps over the last few weeks. The Australians, things like this, they really didn't cover the blind side there. Eventually the defence did shut it down, but the Springboks just maintained the pressure the whole game. I don't think the Australians really respected the level of the Springbok defence in this game.
Well, the Springboks, obviously, Chris, were very hungry for this game. They wanted to make Australia pay. There was an air of perhaps complacency from the Australian media and public, but certainly there was no complacency from South Africa.
No, well, if you think the pressure cooker was up on Nick Mallett, Rod McQueen and his coaching staff now will face the acid test. This was an unstimulating performance by Australia. Critical times, they lost the ball when they didn't get their line-out throws right, and they couldn't really get the ball into play because of the limited options that they had at fly half. So, you know, go back to the drawing board and think it through. And Stephen Larkham and John Eales now in this Barbarians game coming up, actually, it really does pose another question.
Yes, that match, the Australian Barbarians in Fiji, North Sydney Oval, Wednesday night. John Eales and Stephen Larkham, 9 Wallabies in that game against the Fiji World Cup side. But Van der Westhuizen getting through the tackle there of Dan Herbert.
Well, here's the Fleck try, and watch great little work here by Fleck.
He puts it behind his back.
Yeah.
And he knows what he's doing. See, he protects it, and then all of a sudden just produces it out the lap. It's a great thought by Fleck close to the line.
So the final score, 10-9 to South Africa. That is a mighty win.
Look at the ruck and maul count.
And look at that ruck and maul.
Ruck and maul count. Turnovers just terrible for the Australians, pretty high for the South Africans as well. De Beer had a great game at fly half, really controlled the game extremely well, and the line-out was under pressure for the Australians, and the scrum was quite sound.
Yes, well, as far as South Africa is concerned, what a difference a fly half makes. An experienced man, and Yanni de Beer, who's been playing for London Scottish, had a superb game, as Simon said. Well, don't forget the World Cup starts in earnest. It's on October 1st, Wales and Argentina, the first game. Yes, well, what a moment to savour for the South African Springboks. Joost Van der Westhuizen recalled and really showing his class tonight, but there were some terrific players out there for South Africa, Simon and Chris.
Outstanding performance by the Springbok back row, Voss in particular, but Fenter and Erasmus. When Kruger came on, Kruger played well. Montgomery was very good at fullback as well.
Some positives for Australia, their scrum went well. You know, they didn't have a lot of test match time between them, but it went well. But there's some, you know, need to do something at 5'8". Tim Horan is not really a 5'8", and I think it begs the question that Larkham's got to be back. Hopefully it's not too early.
Well, Rod Caper was brought in onto the bench for this game. You know, shouldn't have he been given a chance?
Probably at fly half and move, you know, Horan one wide. You know, but you know, even though that should have been done, I think they should still have been able to convert the ball. That bad passing early really cost.
Yes, there was an early chance for Australia, but David Wilson now the losing skipper for the Wallaby team. Let's hear from him.
One of those nail-biting finishes and a win for the Springboks. They're back in the winner's circle. David Wilson, the Australian captain, commiserations on what was a really close one, but unfortunately had to be on the wrong side of it.
Yeah, we're certainly very disappointed with the way we played today. We got ourselves to blame. Too many drop balls, poor passing. We just didn't control it. We had an opportunity early on and we didn't score, and you know, full credit to the South Africans. They came back and played well.
All right, South Africa out of the Tri-Nations, but unfortunately you found them on a day when they still really had to pick up a win. Otherwise, it was deep into crisis. Unfortunate for you guys.
Yeah, they're back in the winner's circle, as you said, and on the right track towards the World Cup. You know, we've got to regroup now before we play New Zealand in a couple of weeks. And, you know, if we play like we did today, we're going to be in all sorts of trouble.
All right, the focus changes slightly now next week at the Stadium Australia. Of course, Little Bledisloe Cup honours to go for that.
Yeah, no, looking forward to playing it in Sydney at the stadium. And as I said, we've got a lot to work on between now and then. And, you know, hopefully we can finish on a winning note before we head over to the UK.
Just on the game.
So there it is, the Bledisloe Cup, Australia and New Zealand, August 28 at Stadium Australia. A live telecast on the 7 network. Don't miss that one. And also we had the Ricoh National Championship in September. Some last-ditch opportunities there for players to impress for the World Cup squad. And we'll cover those games on 7. And the World Cup, you'll see it all on the 7 network with Chris Handy, Simon Poitevin, Nick Farr-Jones will be there to bring you all of the action from every game. So that will be a wonderful occasion. Thanks very much to Simon and Chris. Look forward to Stadium Australia.
Yeah, I look forward to all the folks getting out there, Australians in green and gold, and supporting our side. It'll be a fantastic night, but we need the support of everyone out there.
Congratulations, the All Blacks Tri-Nations. Bring on the Bledisloe Cup. We want you badly.
And don't forget, North Sydney Oval Wednesday, Fiji's World Cup team against the Australian Barbarians with John Eales and Stephen Larkham. Congratulations, South Africa. They downed Australia by 10-9. See you next time.